when did you decide you were going to get involved in the business, and at what point in your life were you deciding this? Because obviously you became a commentator, but did you ever want to be a professional wrestler itself? Like, how did that journey start for you?
I think every kid at one point, you're like, yeah, I'm going to grow up and be a professional wrestler. But the amount of dedication and belief in yourself and also outside the box thinking, like, yes, I grew up in the Lehigh Valley, which is a haven for pro wrestling. I mean, the Wild Samoans had their wrestling school right next to the bowling alley where my mom went bowling in Whitehall, Pennsylvania. You know, I never got a chance to go in because I was too little. And just the fact that I'm now good friends with Rikishi blows my mind. And I did a short comedy tour with him right before I went to WWE. Just the things that you don't expect in life are crazy. So yeah, I mean, Lehigh Valley is a haven for professional wrestling. Pennsylvania as a whole, it is. But it was one of the things I never thought would be possible by any stretch of the imagination, you know, and once I graduated high school, I had to figure out something. What am I going to do with my life? What am I going to major in? And, you know, my mom and dad are both nurses. And so they said, well, you love sports. Why don't you try physical therapy? Which I did. And it wasn't until I graduated that, you know, I, like a lot of comics, went through a breakup, almost moved across the country for this person, realized it was not a good idea. And I looked up comedy classes, started doing stand-up in 2005. And pretty much I'm one of those people that if I can't half-ass it, if I'm not going to go all in, I'm just not going to do it. So after about a year or so, I started really getting into it, getting up almost every single night. And then I kind of fell into my first hosting gig through stand-up with CBS Mobile. This is like right when mobile content started happening on phones. And it was a stand-up comedy contest that I won. And then I got my first hosting job. So I learned on the fly how to read a teleprompter and how to be a host. And it kind of just came natural to me, just, you know, treating the camera like it was your audience at home. And it was a lot of fun. And fast forward another year or two, I was working on another hosting gig, and me and the camera guy were just talking wrestling. I don't know how it came up. And little did I know, he was close with David Marquez. He was David's main camera guy. So a couple months later, I get contacted by David Marquez, and he said, hey, I'd love to meet for a coffee. If you don't mind, I want to talk to you about a professional wrestling project. And I was like, oh, this will be interesting.
Did you live in California at this point, or were you still in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania? Okay.
Yeah, I moved to California in late 2004. So I was, you know, hustling around there, doing stand-up, doing hosting, stuff like that. But even as an adult, I never thought, I never even thought professional wrestling would be an option. It's just that as much as I loved it, I mean, I just never thought I'd be able to find a way in, you know, never expected it. And we sat down, he said, hey, I'm starting weekly professional wrestling television in Los Angeles. You know, my camera guy speaks very highly of you, and I need someone to do interviews. He said, I can't promise anything's going to come out of it, but it's an opportunity. And I said, yeah, I'm in. Before I even sat down, if it was pro wrestling related, I'm like, yes, I'm going to say yes to this. I remember our first taping, my very first interview ever was with the NWA champion at the time, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. Now,
Very cool.
Very close friend. I consider him to be one of the main reasons I was hired with WWE. So I still owe a lot to him. I always told him, anytime you're in my presence, you're never going to pay for a drink. And I've held up that end of the bargain ever since. And so over the course of 9 years with Championship Wrestling, you know, I was doing interviews. And then one day I got kind of thrown into commentary, never having done it before. This is probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I think, at least. And oh my God, it's like a light bulb went off. And it just felt so natural to me to tell the stories of the guys and girls in the ring that were competing, and just trying to make it sound as much as I could like a sport, and just do my own version of it, you know? And so thanks to Championship Wrestling, I had the option to do, I did everything with a microphone before I even got to WWE. And that's why one of the reasons I think I got hired without an audition, because I had a really large body of work. I had just been to Pakistan in late 2018 for the second time as a group of people who brought professional wrestling to Pakistan, live pro wrestling for the first time ever, with an amazing company called Ring of Pakistan. They're actually about to do something huge over there now again, which I'm very happy for them. So, I mean, I had already done quite a bit in pro wrestling, and I always took it very seriously. Like, I've always separated stand-up and wrestling. To me, I don't really mess with them, you know. Like, to me, as a play-by-play guy, like, I'm serious about what I do. Stand up is completely separate, you know? And so it's pretty crazy. Like if it wasn't for meeting David Marquez, none of this ever would have happened. You know, I never would have had the dream gig, never would have ended up working in MMA on UFC Fight Pass, never would have ended up calling boxing. So many things would be completely different about my life if I didn't take that coffee meeting with David and just saying, yeah, I'm in 100%. And I was, you know, loyal to Championship Wrestling over those 9 years. I did everything possible behind the scenes, everything possible with a microphone. And now that I'm back in California, it feels great to go back home. Now I'm basically the on-screen authority figure, if you will, for the committee for the United Wrestling Network. And I take that very seriously because I don't think it's done well over the years by a lot of people. And so for me, it's like, I want it to be believable. I want it to be realistic, and I want it to be as sports-based as possible. And so that's been another awesome thing that I never thought I'd be able to do. And now I'm doing that as well. So hopefully that wasn't too long of an answer, but it's been a weird journey.